Hi, I'm Jeff Holden. Welcome to the Nonprofit Podcast Network. Our purpose and passion is to highlight a nonprofit organization in each weekly episode, giving that organization an opportunity to tell their story in their words to better inform and educate the respective communities they serve, as well as provide one more tool for them to share their message to constituents and donors. Our goal is to help build stronger communities through shared voices and to both encourage and support the growth of local nonprofit organizations through podcasting. I'm thrilled to welcome Smudge Shine Awards as our episode sponsor, supporting our nonprofit community with grants for more efficient energy usage, with continuing thanks to our founding partners, Cap Trust, fiduciary advice for endowments and foundations, and Western Health Advantage, a full-service healthcare plan for individuals, employer groups, and families. Often, in this course of work, it's very easy to be moved by the experience of seeing the work our nonprofits do, whatever their mission. More often than not, that work is direct, person-to-person or peer-to-peer. This episode is different, though. There's a third living being creating the experience that's to the benefit of the client. And it's not a human. It's a horse. Yes, a horse providing therapeutic riding to the benefit of the rider. Well, maybe more, as you're about to hear from the discussion. In this heartwarming episode, we explore the incredible impact of Project R.I.D.E, a horseback riding program that is changing lives one ride at a time. We'll share the inspiring journeys of riders like Maren and Gracie, who gain empowerment and independence through the program. And we'll learn about the robust community support and fundraising efforts that keep Project R.I.D.E thriving. From its long-standing partnerships with institutions like Sac State to ambitious plans for future expansion, we'll hear how dreams of making equine therapy accessible to even more individuals with disabilities might just happen. This community-driven initiative not only enhances the lives of its participants, but also provides a profound sense of joy and respite for their families. Rachel Prettyman, Emily Calanchini, welcome to the Nonprofit Podcast Network.
Thank you.
Thank you
Excited to be here.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
This is going to be a fun conversation because I have not had anybody in the studio where we're actually talking about the service you provide as a living and ridden source. We have had another equestrian organization in, but you don't ride the horses. Mm-hmm. You know, they're psychotherapists, which is an amazing story in itself. And I imagine you get the benefit of both, because not only does the horse perform its connection with the individual, but it also is doing something physically beneficial as well, which is a bit of the novelty. That's the difference. So I've already identified that it's horses, and some of us have heard about horse riding as a benefit to a variety of disabilities, but we really don't know what that means. So it's Project R.I.D.E, and ride means literally ride.
Yes, it does.
Tell us a little bit about that.
So the RIDE in Project R.I.D.E stands for Riding Instruction Designed for Education. So what we do is we use horseback riding to help our clients work on everything from physical to cognitive to emotional to social skills and needs. And so through our lessons, our riders are either mounted or working on the ground, but they're working on everything from academics in our arena to social interaction, and we're using the greatest tool we have, which is our horses. So in addition to learning how to read or counting or matching in our lessons, they're also getting the feedback from their horse and working on that hippotherapy and equine, which is equine therapy interaction with their horse.
Now you said hippotherapy. What is that?
So that is therapy through a horse.
Okay.
And so while we don't have physical therapists and OTs on site, we're recreational. They still receive that feedback and that immediate benefit when they're on a horse. They're working on core strength, balance, and then there's a lot of trust that goes in riding these horses, and so they're also working on things like that when they're riding.
Now, when we were there, the horses are very large.
Yes.
And the clients we saw on those horses were very tiny.
Yes.
I'm talking like maybe 60 pounds.
Mhm.
How does one manage that large horse at such small scale?
So our riders, that's part of our job as instructors is to make sure they're matched properly. But our horses go through extensive training, and we pick them specifically for the job that we can trust them to be safe and respectful to their riders. And so we train them, we have them ready for their lesson, and these riders put their trust in us and hop on these huge animals
Yes.
and take control. Like you saw in the video, Maren and Gracie, they are two of the riders who are willing to get on our newer horses or our faster horses because they love it and they know that they're safe when they're riding it. And we just have stellar horses. So
We don't have this as one of the questions, but I'm curious, where do the horses come from?
So we don't go out and buy our horses. Other centers have a budget to buy their horses. We are very community based. So we put the word out and we take horses on donation. So we do like a care lease. So we take care of their basic needs, vet bills, and the owners will lease them to us. And so we just advertise on social media. We go out to horse shows, and we usually get horses that are in their retirement age. So they've done their career, they've done their showing and competing, and they come to us because, maybe their owners need a younger horse, so they don't have the space for them in retirement. And then we take care of them and give them a second job that's usually they like it better than their first
Second
job.
career.
Second career. And what better? They have the best care. Our volunteers at the barn and at our ranch take care of them exceptionally well. And they're carrying, precious cargo. And they start to bond connections with their riders. And you can see them recognizing when certain riders come to the barn. So it's a nice gig for a horse, especially in their older years.
I
Yeah.
would imagine.
Yeah.
It's a light rider. They don't have
Exactly.
somebody weighing 180, 200
Exactly.
pounds
They're
sitting
not
on their
jumping
back.
over jumps. They're not racing down the racetrack. They're taking, their riders around the arena for a fun ride. So they love it.
The program has been around for a while,
Mhm.
and I'm guessing probably longer than you.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about its tenure in the community.
So Project R.I.D.E has been around for a lot longer than me. I got started because my older brother rode through Project R.I.D.E. So when we started 46 years ago, it was just a little arena behind Jesse Baker School. It was started by OT that worked for the Jesse Baker School, and she saw a need, and so she started it. And they used to bring the horses in every day for lessons, where now they live on site during the week. And through community support and amazing donations throughout the years, we've been able to build to having 2 arenas on site, the covered barn. So it's been a long process, but the process has worked because of the community and their support.
And it's an impressive facility. You've got the stables, the actual barn itself, or the stadium. I don't know what you technically call that. The
yeah.
arena, thank
Yeah.
you. And it was spectacular, not to mention the grounds outside that are fully utilized as well. Who is it you see as the greatest beneficiaries?
So our clients obviously are, they're receiving the benefits from the lessons. So they're working, like I mentioned earlier, everything from physical to cognitive skills and activities in the lessons. And so we have riders who come in who can't sit up in their chair because they have weak core muscles. And after riding a couple sessions with us, they're sitting up independently, like you saw, steering their horse and taking control on their own. We have a exceptional staff of instructors who are working very hard to meet the goals for our riders. So they're receiving a lot of what we have to offer. But, if going beyond that, if you were to come into the barn as a volunteer or staff member in a grumpy or a bad mood, you leave with a smile, because as much as we give to our riders, they don't realize they give so much back to us just by being them. So our volunteers and our staff, I know personally, I left a career as a teacher to work here full time because of how much we get back working with this population. It's amazing to see what they have to offer. And as much as we give them and provide them, they give back to us too.
What are some of the disabilities you see?
So we have a wide range, for everything from autism to, speech delay to cerebral palsy, strokes, traumatic brain injuries. We have a wide range. As long as you have a doctor's diagnosis, we take pretty much anybody. And so we have everything physical, emotional, anxiety, all the way up to, a severe physical disability.
Youngest to oldest?
We start at age 3, and we go up as long as you can sit upright on a horse safely. So,
And if I'm not mistaken, you told me you had somebody in their 80s?
Yes. Yep.
Which is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
It's just amazing. How does one become a client?
So we have an application process. On our website, we have a doctor's medical form that you have to have a doctor fill out with your diagnoses, and then a release of liability form. And so once you have the paperwork done, you submit it to our office, and then one of our instructors will call you for an assessment. So you would come in, um, complete your assessment, and then if your availability matched a hole that we have, a time slot, then we would sign you up and bring you in the barn.
And if I understand correctly, matching a hole or time slot is very difficult at this point in
Yes.
time because you're
Yes.
booked out.
We are
How long is the waiting list?
a year, couple years. I think we have around 200 on our waiting list right now.
Okay.
And so as we keep track of their applications and as their applications start to expire, we call them up and we have you redo your paperwork so that whenever we have a spot, we can plug you right in.
And accommodate whatever
Yes.
that individual is,
Exactly.
which is something we'll get to in just a little bit about the need
Hmm.
for more. Because if you are that booked out, you have 200 people on a waiting list, obviously the demand is there. And what's the
Exactly.
geography that you serve?
So we serve the greater Sacramento.
Okay.
We have some clients drive as far as, El Dorado Hills area, just because there's not very much of what we do in this area. And we are a little bit more unique in what we offer.
We offer a lot. We
Yeah.
serve a really big population.
What's
But
our
it's just-
greater Sacramento?
Basically just greater Sacramento. That's
Okay. So maybe the 4 counties?
yeah.
So you
So
could see somebody from Yolo, Yuba, El Dorado,
yeah,
Placer.
people will drive sometimes over an hour away to get to us just for their weekly ride. We definitely have more local riders than our farther away ones, but we do see them coming from over an hour away. Our volunteers also, they'll drive that far also just to come in and help these kids ride.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So the benefit to the volunteers is significant enough to say it's worth my trouble in time and
Exactly.
gas to get there, not something just that's really close and easy to get to. They enjoy it that much.
Exactly. Yes.
And
It's
if I'm-
therapy for them too, just coming into the barn. They want to be there, so they don't mind coming in to, spend their gas money. They want to spend time with the horses. They want to see the kids. So it's kind of cool. They get to also watch these riders kind of progress in their lessons also. It's success for them to be able to see that.
And you have some long-term volunteers as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very
One of our volunteers, they've been there probably almost since the beginning, at least 30 years minimum. They've always been supportive of the program. They've been there from the very beginning, and they're still volunteering with us today. So they come in once a week, and it's great.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's just amazing. Success stories.
Mhm.
Give us a couple examples of stories of children or adults or whomever that have come through the program and what the benefit has been on the outside of it once are they ever done with the program or do they have a shelf life on that program?
So they're never done. We, personally, my brother rode when I was growing up, and now due to some of his surgeries he's unable to ride anymore. But he still comes in the barn and volunteers and checks in, not just because I work there, but our riders, even if they kind of some of them, age out, they want to try other things in life, they'll still come back and visit, or they'll volunteer if they can't ride anymore. Success stories, I'll give one of mine. I had a rider, I used to teach on the weekends, and I had a rider in nonverbal, and they would come in, get on their horse, and they let us know they were happy through their smile and interacting with sidewalkers, but never heard a peep out of the rider. The rider was also in speech outside of the barn, and one day, we would teach the rider to tap my hand because we tell them to say walk on when they want their horse to go, or whoa to stop. So the rider would tap my hand for walk on instead of verbalizing it. And it was just routine. And I put my hand up and I said, okay, tell your horse to walk on. And the rider tapped my hand and verbalized in the softest voice, walk on. And I think every volunteer in the arena, I started crying. It's not hard to make me cry, but I started crying. The parents were up in the stands watching, just so excited. The rider had said a couple words in speech therapy, but we had never heard it. And so it was one of their first 5 words they said. And it was just such an exciting moment. And from then on, it just kept progressing, and the rider was very excited to speak in their lessons. And it's a memory I'll never forget. And then just recently we had an adult come, and the adult wasn't able to ride with us yet. And so the adult came in to do barn chores, which is one of our volunteer positions. And we heard from the aide that came with them every day. She stopped into the office and said, at the group home where this volunteer, or the client volunteer, lived, they noticed that their behavior at home was different, and they were helping out more in the kitchen, and they were checking in with the staff more, and they were just more open and wanting to help out. And they said the only difference that they could attribute that to was the fact that they were coming into Project R.I.D.E. So it's just a testament to, you don't have to be on the back of a horse to receive the benefits. They were just coming and helping us with our barn chores, and it was then translating into their home life. So,
well, how interesting too to think not only does it benefit the rider in their physical ability, core strength and dexterity, and probably some sense, balance and everything else, but it changes their confidence, I would imagine.
Exactly.
All the way around, not just when they're in the arena on the horse, but actually at home to where they feel, okay, I can do this now, and things they maybe wouldn't have been able to do before or chose not to do before. We had the opportunity to see a couple of riders that will run the video now so people can see it. It'll be running behind us. But tell us a little bit about those two young ladies.
Yeah, so you're seeing Maren and Gracie. They're both students of mine. And Maren's been riding with us for a little bit longer than Gracie. Maren's pretty much grown up around the barn. But they're both just so enthusiastic. They love riding. And Maren is in a chair, and so doesn't have full use of her legs. And so, but when she gets up on that horse, she's in charge, and she's the boss, and she's the one that she'll always ask when she comes in if there's a new trial horse or something that she can get on and ride. And Gracie's just the happiest kid you'll ever meet. She loves, her favorite part of riding, I think, is chatting with her sidewalkers and interacting and getting that social piece. And she loves the trail. She loves our sensory trail, which you'll see us out on the sensory trail in the video too. So they're both very dear, special clients.
What about parents? What do you hear from parents as they see their child evolve and mature with the horses?
So speaking personally, I know that in addition to watching their child, it's Project R.I.D.E, when they come, their child gets to be normal. In so much of the world, there's modifications and adaptations. Their child needs to be successful and to do everything else that somebody of their age is doing. But at Project R.I.D.E, everything's modified for them. So they get to come in and just see their child be normal in a sense. And it gives them a break. I know watching my parents with my brother through the years, they're 24/7. As a caregiver, you're on all the time. And so they get to come. Some of them, bring a book and sit and take a break. Others are taking pictures of them or of their child riding, but it gives them a time to take a breath for themselves and then see their child succeeding in a world that's, they're not always able to, the world's not always accommodating and helping them succeed. Their riders are meeting goals and doing things that you wouldn't expect. Like, looking at our two riders, you wouldn't expect them to be up on top of a horse.
No, not at all.
Taking charge, and, trotting and increasing in speed on their horse. And last week I found out that Maren did 2-point, which is actually standing up out of your saddle and getting into a jumping position. And her mom was so excited that, she was able to figure out how to use her leg muscles to do that. And so it's just, I love the fact that we can not only give their child an opportunity to be normal, but to see what they can do and to kind of push those limits in a safe way. So,
what do you hear from the parents about that respite, or that opportunity, as opposed to just what they see on the child side of it? What about their personal side of it?
Well, it's needed. Like I said, they're nonstop going. And
how long is a session?
30 minutes.
Okay.
So even a 30-minute breather, like I said, some will bring a book, some will go take a walk on our trail. It's just 30 minutes where you don't have to worry. Like personally, again, bringing back to my brother, I know there's constant worry. There's always, is it okay? Is his breathing okay? Is this okay? And so they have 30 minutes where they can just watch their child or just go take a breath and relax. And I think that's, I love that part of what we can offer them.
Let's talk a little bit about other organizations you might work with. I think, Emily, this is going to be a little bit more of your forte. Who do you collaborate with? Who do you tend to see engaging with you from the outside in?
So our biggest collaboration is probably with Sac State. We've had a contract with them for about 15 years now. And they use service learning projects through us. So child development classes, nursing classes. I believe we've even had some health classes come to us. And their professors will give them a certain amount of hours to complete at our site. And they'll come and sidewalk with us for the entirety of their semester.
And by sidewalk?
Yes, sidewalk. So you'll see also the videos that It's one of the aids on either side of the horse that's supporting the rider, and just there, just as a
Side
safety.
walking
Yes,
with the horse.
yes,
Yes, okay.
literally side walking. So Sac State's a big one. We also have local nursing schools. Unitech's one of them. Other local colleges might come out and do hours with us also. Volunteer-wise, that's our big one. We also have adult day programs that will come into us. Kids that may have aged out of Jesse Baker and now are in adult day programs, they'll come back with their groups and volunteer with us. That might be like a group like in Alliance. It might be Visions in Motion that's in Elk Grove also. The couple adult day programs like that, they come to us. And then we also have, we collaborate with Alta Regional. They bring clients to us.
Mm-hmm.
Some of our clients ride through Alta, some aren't. They're independent. But those are kind of our big ones, I'd say, is our colleges
Yeah.
and the adult day programs.
Yeah, and that's impressive. I never even would have thought Sac State would be one of your primary.
Yeah.
But I see the value in terms of what they're benefiting from by coming to the arena.
Yeah, it's fun working with them because part of their service learning project is they spend hours kind of getting to know the program and the riders and kind of how to work with a rider or a client that has disabilities. And then at the end of it, they usually have some type of project that they have to present to us in the program. And so that might be coming up with a new arena game for us. That might be coming up, like our nursing students, they'll come up with like a health and safety one, like they'll show specific hand washing procedures, how to deal with summer heat, like kind of fresh refreshers for the volunteers and the parents and the riders for those types of things.
Mm-hmm.
It's fun to see them kind of develop and blossom throughout the semester. They'll collaborate with our instructors and figure out what ideas might work best and kind of help our arena games grow because, we've been working with them for so long. Sometimes we see duplicates. So it's kind of fun seeing the new ideas come in and seeing how we can kind of revamp what we have.
Well, you get the experience then of the students coming to know what to expect,
Right.
to where you can benefit them. One class to the next. By the time you get to the third class, they get the benefit of the other two classes.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I'm simplifying, but you're talking about years of this relationship. This didn't just start.
Yeah.
And it's kind of really interesting and honestly fun to watch because our instructors are working with these future teachers. So they're kind of getting to work one-on-one and be trained by a teacher and see them come into their own at the end by also teaching a lesson because that's what their end goal is to present this project and then teach it to the riders. So it's fun to see them kind of come into the barn a little bit nervous, probably have never touched or worked with a horse before, and by the end of it, they just seem much more confident leaving the barn. Like they received the experience they were supposed to.
Mm-hmm. We'll be back with more from Rachel and Emily after these messages from those who support our nonprofit community in so many ways.
Make our communities bright with Smudge Shine Awards. Now through July 31st, your nonprofit can apply for a chance to receive funding for projects that improve and revitalize communities in our service area. We're seeking proposals that support zero carbon workforce development, environmental justice and equity, inclusive economic growth, and STEM education. Smudge Shine Awards are competitive and funds are limited. Submit your proposal by July 31st. Learn more at smud.org/shine.
Hello, this is Scott Thomas with Cap Trust in our Sacramento office. I specialize in working with local nonprofits and associations. Annually, we survey private and public nonprofit organizations across the country to better understand challenges they see in today's environment. In our more recent survey, we heard concerns about proper board governance, mission-aligned investment, and how to implement alternative investments. If you would like a copy of the survey or to discuss your organization, look me up, Scott Thomas at captrust.com.
I'm thrilled to have Western Health Advantage partnering with us as they do so much to support so many nonprofit agencies in our community. As a truly local health plan, you'll find individual and family options, employer options, plans for CalPERS and Medicare Advantage. From medical services to pharmacy, health and wellness support, as well as behavioral health care, Western Health Advantage has a plan that fits what you need. As an employer, for profit or nonprofit business, individual or family, you can find more at westernhealth.com. Tell us a little bit about funding. It's a big topic right now because there's a lot of changes going on, and I would imagine that's going to be the case for the life of this episode too, which tends to be maybe a year and a half, 2 years. How are you guys funded?
So we have 3 major fundraisers a year. We have our crab feed in January, our steak dinners typically in April, and then we have a spaghetti feed that's usually in October.
Wait, so crab, steak, and spaghetti. So you've covered
Yes.
everybody.
Yes. Everybody, there's some that come to all 3, and there's some that have a specific food group that they show up for.
Yes.
But those are our 3 major ones, and the money that's raised at these fundraisers, majority goes to tuition assistance for our riders. It covers, our administration expenses, program expenses. Horses can be pricey. They require maintenance. So that's where funding goes. Also, we participate in Big Day of Giving. Just a couple weeks ago, we raised almost $30,000 in 24 hours. So that was it's Big Day of Giving is always fun to see how much support we can get in just one day online without having to, put on a fundraiser and have people come in the barn. So it just kind of shows that the community is showing up for us regardless whether they're in person or not.
Mm-hmm.
And then we also participate in fundraisers that we don't necessarily host. So Sac Region Foundation obviously puts on Big Day of Giving, but we have the Scoop Scoot. It's in a couple weeks, actually, June 6th in William Lamb Park. And so this company puts it on for us, and we are one of 5 beneficiaries, and people come get a scoop of ice cream, and they walk around William Lamb Park. We also participate with Bogle Winery. They have a night that's dedicated to nonprofits, and we're featured on one of the nights. So there's a couple little side fundraisers, I guess, that we're participating in.
On the funding you get from the events that you do, the fundraising events, does that fund everything?
Yes and no. I guess for the most part, it raises a lot of funds, but there's always the need for tuition assistance. That's never full. We have so many riders that are wanting to ride. And I think Rachel had mentioned, riding or having a child that's disabled, it's a lot. And it's not the cheapest thing to do is to have a child that has a disability. So in an ideal world, if we could have enough tuition assistance so we didn't have to have a fee on the lesson, that's our goal. We don't want to have people pay for it.
Sure. So every client in some way, shape, or form pays. There's a fee for the service in addition to all the fundraising.
Yes.
And is that fee personal? Is it a private, the parent paying the fee, or are there agencies that support the parent in paying for that fee?
Yeah, so we go through Alta Regional for some of our clients, but some clients do come independent on their own, and it's from their parents.
Okay. What's the total budget? Do you know roughly?
Like our annual operating, around $640,000.
Okay, so it's a substantial amount of money.
Yeah, so we're very fortunate with our current balance. We're really good about that. One thing that we really pride ourselves on is we're not going to overspend. We're going to, like Rachel had mentioned, there's other centers and programs that have a budget for buying horses, and we source all of our horses. So that helps us save that money in that way. And it just, we get down to the nitty gritty. We work dirty. We don't have the fanciest of things if you visit other centers, but we try to build as much as we can to save for those riders if we needed it.
In terms of volunteers, how many volunteers do you have?
So we have around 50 a day, so around 250 a week.
Oh my gosh, that's
Yeah.
far more than I expected.
Yeah.
Yes.
We couldn't run our program without our volunteers. So.
Right.
Yeah.
And
They're the heart and the soul. If volunteers didn't show up, the horses wouldn't have a reason, the riders wouldn't have a reason, we wouldn't have a reason. So we couldn't do it without them.
And how about employees? How many people do you employ?
11.
That's it.
Yes.
And over the course, I would imagine every month is about the same in terms of the client
Yes.
number that you can do. How many people do you deal with in a week or a month?
Around 140.
Yeah.
When the school that we service next door is in session, we have a little bit more,
Mhm.
but around 140 average that we ride.
That's a lot of people. That's a
Yeah.
lot of. I don't. It's not kids. I want to say kids
Yeah.
all the time, but it's not. It's a lot of people you service.
Mhm.
And I
How
think that's
amazing.
Yeah, and I think that's what it might look easy to put a kid on a horse and have or an adult,
Oh no,
anyone
we
on a
saw
horse
that.
to ride around.
I know that's not
Yeah,
easy.
it's not.
You have to. The horse is giant. You have
Exactly.
to walk up to a staging area,
Exactly.
Yeah.
especially for a child in a chair, and then get them onto the horse.
Mhm.
It was incredible. It's not what I expected.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that's what our instructors on a daily basis, they're looking at the riders they have. They may have a 3-year-old who's totally ambulatory, hopping on a horse and can go and ride. And then the next lesson, they have somebody who has no use of their legs and is an adult, and they're having to switch gears and constantly watching to see how they're feeling today. Are they weak? Are they strong? And, our instructors are going nonstop riding that many riders and just
Mhm.
constantly problem solving and doing their best to keep them safe and give them the best ride they have. So we so proud of who we have as instructors.
Even our volunteers with like you had mentioned the instructors kind of having to quickly shift gears. It's also our volunteers. If we have a kid who's able to hop on quick and then we're moving to another horse with another rider who might not have use of their legs, we have the volunteers quickly rushing to get a different tack to put on the new horse. So it's a lot of rushing around, but we do it in order to get as many riders in as
I was saying, 'cause
possible.
Yeah.
You're tight on your
Yeah.
half-hour windows.
Yeah.
You have to move them through.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, so this is the fun question.
Mm-hmm.
Money's no object. And you have some significant donors in that area.
Mhm.
And they came and said, here, Rachel, Emily, this check is blank. If you give me a good enough reason, it's yours. What would you do?
So I'd start with tuition assistance and cover every rider for a year plus. I would love to see our riders come to register and start riding, and that not be a concern for them and their families. Beyond that, you got to see in the video our Racewood simulator, Buster Brady, that we absolutely love. That came from a very generous donor who literally just surprised us to cover the cost of the simulator.
And let me explain just for a second. The simulator, for lack of better description, we've all seen a mechanical bull
Mm-hmm.
and what that looks like. This is a mechanical horse.
Yes.
That, well, it's not going to buck you off of
Yeah,
it intentionally.
thankfully.
It's meant to teach those who maybe aren't ready for the horse yet,
Mhm.
or maybe never, because it's controlled.
Exactly.
But it does everything in the experience of a
Mm-hmm.
horse ride. And I can say that with confidence because I did it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
As,
Even
as did our producer Sawyer, who,
Yeah.
who wanted it on its
Yeah.
fastest gait.
Exactly. Yeah. No, it emulates exactly what you would get on a horse, if not a little bit more. The faster speeds that you were talking about, we couldn't do in the arena with our riders,
Yeah.
and so they can feel what that feels like on the horse. We even have able-bodied, very accomplished equestrians coming in and taking a ride on it after a bad fall or an accident. They need to get their confidence and their stamina back. Everyone uses it. The instructors get on to keep their skills up. It's a very amazing tool. And like you said, if a rider's a little too worried about getting on a real horse, they can start on Buster Brady, work up their confidence. Or if they can't get on a horse, we have the lift in the room and we can lift them up and seat them on Buster. We are so blessed to have it.
And this is not a cheap
No. No.
piece of equipment. It's an incredibly expensive one.
Yes.
And I think what's even more exciting is it's one of only 4
Yeah.
that we know of in the country, in the United States.
Yep.
And you have it.
Yeah.
Came all the way from the United Kingdom. So
Yeah.
What an amazing opportunity for people to learn on something that is really rare.
mhm.
So back to the dream.
Yeah.
We want how many of these things?
We want 3. So there's 3 models. We have the dressage version, and there's a racing and a jumping version. So I'd love to have that in the barn to give our students the feel of what it feels like to jump a horse or to go down a racetrack. And that's also working different muscles that our current simulator wouldn't work on, muscle groups. So we'd love to have 2 more Buster Brady barns. And then, Project R.I.D.E, we're so excited. We're outgrowing what we have.
Mhm.
We have, like I said, a wait list of 200 riders. We would love to get that wait list down to 0. And so, thinking big, we'd love to have another site that we could offer more services. Maybe we could bring in PT and OT and have mental health services, or at least get the rest of those kids on that wait list riding. So another site, more horses, so that we can, clear off that waiting list. And
But as soon as you clear it, It'll be
more
back.
come.
Then
Exactly.
we'll just have to franchise and get
That's-
more locations
Project
open.
R.I.D.E's
Right.
all over the country. So
And you said all over the country.
Yeah.
Are there other affiliates that you work and talk with that are in similar situations around the country?
yes, so we're under the Professional Association of Therapeutic Riding, PATH, and there's PATH centers like us all over the country, and we work with them. Another instructor and I were just in Texas earlier this week at a workshop, and so we are getting ideas from them, sharing ideas from our center. And so our organization is very collaborative. We'll have instructors from other centers in other states come to watch us teach to get ideas. It's a very collaborative, we help each other organization.
You mentioned obviously another arena or another facility, maybe
Mhm.
not in the same space, somewhere
Mhm.
else in the city. Is there anticipation for a capital campaign at some point?
Yes, we do have a capital campaign that we'd like to get up and running. I think it's a $2 million budget, but at our either for another site, another barn off-site, or a current one, we would like to build some extra offices, extra storage space, more simulator rooms, and then more. We have a classroom right now that we do ground lessons and classroom learning in, and I would love to see some more classrooms so that we can do extra activities. So I'd love to see sibling classes for siblings of those with disabilities. I'd love to see parent classes, and for that we need space. So that's the bulk of our campaign. It's to keep our current barn and grow up and see what else we can add to that.
And while it's not there yet, we just teased it.
Mhm.
So people who are listening to the episode can say, well, maybe I can help. Let's get started. What do we need to get going? Because I see so much value in what you guys are doing for so many in the community. Back to reality,
Yeah.
the day-to-day operation.
Right.
What does it look like? What's the greatest need that you've got today?
Tuition assistance is still, it's the forefront of our mind. And then volunteers. Like Emily shared earlier, we could not do what we did without our volunteers. And so those are the two areas that we really focus on day to day, is making sure that we can cover lessons for as many of our riders as we need, and then keeping the volunteers coming into our program so that we can keep running.
Sure. How many people are, if you know this answer, privately funded, meaning paying for it themselves versus those who are coming through a subsidized service?
I think around half,
Mhm.
if I had to
That's
say.
about 50-50.
Yeah. So I think a lot of our rider families are fortunate that they go through Alta, and we or Alta can cover that expense for them.
Mhm.
But the other half is independent.
Okay.
Yeah.
So really none of the money comes from grants or federal funding or contracts locally with the state or county. It's really paid through either Alta or individual.
For their tuition and stuff, the majority, yes, we do write grants, and we will connect with city things and work on those and along those lines.
Mhm.
But for the majority of it, it's out of Alta or out of their own pockets, because
right.
we might get the grant, but it's only for so much, and it'll only last so long. So
And maybe only for a specific thing.
Exactly. They're
Right.
specific. Yeah.
Right. Which is good. It's good that you're not reliant on that, because we don't know what the state of that looks like going forward.
yeah.
And the likelihood is those organizations who are more self-sustaining are going to be the ones that will sustain, because they're not going to lose 60, 70, 80% of their budgets
Right.
because of the reliance on what may have changed.
And I think that also kind of falls back on like how much we've been able to build our budget up to be that $640,000 that we
Mhm.
are operating on. For us, being so cautious with how we're spending our money, because everything's uncertain. Nobody knows
Correct.
what could happen. So I think for us, having that budget helps us long-term plan and feel kind of more secure.
Rachel, what's the best way to learn about the program, whether I'm a parent or I'm somebody that's interested in donating? Where do we find information out about it?
Yeah, so the best way to go is to our website, projectr.org. So we have tabs there for prospective clients, volunteers, if you want to volunteer with us, if you want to make a donation, whether it be TAC, horse, or a financial donation, there's information there. Or simply just call up the office and ask for Emily or Rachel, and come in, stop by, and we'll give you a tour and sit down with you and just share what we can.
You want to give us the website?
Yes, it's www.projectride.org.
Okay, and we'll have that in the show notes. And what's the number if I want to call and say, I want to come for a tour?
Yes, it's 916-685-7433.
Okay. So many organizations do so many things that we're familiar with. Project R.I.D.E is one of those things doing something most of us never even knew existed, or at best, we maybe heard something about it. But giving those with the disabilities the opportunity to experience nature on a living thing, and I know that's a big part of getting out of the arena into
Yes.
the ride and the trail, is just amazing. But it teaches them their balance and control and independence, even if it's just for 30 minutes. It's significant. What a blessing you're giving the families, the respite for the parents. And I saw firsthand the enthusiasm of those two little girls riding the horse and the excitement before they got on, and then when they got off, not only from the children, but the parents as well, in just 30 minutes. It was amazing to me. Not to mention I got to ride Buster Brady
Yeah.
too. I got to ride a horse. What you have in Elk Grove is absolutely simply amazing.
Thank you.
So I thank you both for your commitment of support with those with disabilities and for your team, both human and horse. You guys are awesome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to the Nonprofit Podcast Network. I hope you enjoyed the episode. If what you heard moved you, please reach out to that organization and do what you can to help. If you like and appreciate what we're doing to support local nonprofits, please give us a positive review, subscribe, and share. If you're a nonprofit with an interest in participating in an episode, you can reach me at jeff@hearmenowstudio.com. Once again, we're grateful for the businesses who have made this program possible. CapTrust, fiduciary advice for endowments and foundations. You can find them in Sacramento, Roseville, and Folsom. captrust.com. SMUD Shine Awards, helping support our nonprofit community with grants for more efficient energy usage. smud.org/shine. And Western Health Advantage, a full-service healthcare plan for individuals, employer groups, and families. westernhealth.com.